The reason you keep starting over and over. See, most people think their problem is lack of motivation, but it isn't. The real problem, the real source of their problem is that every year they create a new version of themselves in their imagination, but they never kill and bury the old one. Every January, we know it, they write goals. Every Monday, they create a plan. Every morning, they promise themselves, this year, this time, I'll be different. And then life becomes a little bit uncomfortable. They face a little bit of resistance, and that is exactly the moment, that is actually the door to change, facing that resistance. But they refuse to accept and face resistance. And the moment life becomes a little bit uncomfortable, they right away return to the person they have always been, because that person is familiar to them. That person, that vision gives them comfort. And not because they're weak. Like I said, because that's familiar. Because your nervous system would rather choose familiar pain than unfamiliar growth. Let me tell this again to you. Because your nervous system would rather choose familiar pain than unfamiliar growth. And that is the biggest problem. And this is where exactly most people lose. This is where most of us actually lose. Not when life becomes hard, nah. But when life asks them to become someone else. Because transformation is not adding something new. Transformation is letting something old die. We bury that old thing. We get rid of it. We accept the pain. We accept the resistance. But we make sure that we let that old version of ourselves go completely. The old habits, the old excuses, the old victim story. Why me? Why me? The old identity. Instead of that, we choose accountability. We choose responsibility for ourselves. And that is the death of the old self. And that death is painful. And that is why most people stay where they are. Not because they don't know what to do. Most people know exactly what to do because the logical mind is very awake and very aware. But it's the battle between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. The battle between David versus Goliath. You know, they wake up earlier. They move their body. They stop drinking. They stop lying. They start having difficult conversation. They start leaving toxic relationship. They start a new business. Write the book. But the moment resistance comes and it gets uncomfortable, you know what's missing? Consistency. Patience and consistency. If you only keep going, if you only remember why you started this journey, if you only go back and remember your why, the only thing you need in that moment is patience and consistency and a breeze of faith, and you will see that God will open the doors to you. So, as you can see, the problem is not the information. We all know what to do. The problem is the courage. The problem is the courage because courage means walking into uncertainty without any guarantees. And the modern world today has trained all of us to seek comfort above everything else, to seek certainty over uncertainty. Comfortable food, comfortable entertainment, comfortable relationships, comfortable excuses, comfortable distraction, instant gratification. Our biggest enemy right now, and the biggest enemy of our kids. We have to prepare our kids for this toxic energy. Instant gratification. But comfort has a hidden price, I promise you that. The price is your potential. Every comfort you choose today is a future version of yourself you are sacrificing tomorrow. And one day you wake up and realize something absolutely terrifying. You're no longer suffering because life is difficult, but you're suffering because you have avoided difficulty for so long. Please do me a favor and think about that. The pain of discipline lasts a moment, maybe a day, maybe a couple of hours. But the pain of regret can last a lifetime and will last a lifetime. Every person you admire today understood this. The athlete, the entrepreneur, the artist, the parent, the leader, the healer. None of them became extraordinary because life was easy. None of them became exceptional because they chose comfort. Nah, they became extraordinary because they stopped negotiating with reality. Reality does not care what you deserve. Life does not care what you deserve. Reality only responds to what you repeatedly do. Consistency and patience. So you cannot think your way into a new life. You must behave your way into it. You have to act. You have to take action. And that requires pressure. People today are terrified of pressure. But pressure is not the enemy. Understand that. Pressure reveals who you truly are. Look at the diamond. A diamond is created by pressure. A warrior is created by pressure. Character is created by pressure. Without pressure, there's no growth. Without resistance, there's no strength. And that is why we're pressuring the students in the training so much. We want them to get familiar with pressure. We want them to become friends with pressure. We want them to understand what information, what message pressure and pain are bringing them. Obviously, we're talking here about controlled pain, processed pain, not talking about the uncontrolled and unprocessed pain. That causes a lot of damages. What I'm talking about is the controlled pain. So you have to understand, without adversity, there's no wisdom. And the question is not, how do I avoid suffering? The question is, which suffering is worth enduring? Because every human, I'm telling you this, in this world will suffer. The disciplined suffer, the undisciplined suffer, the healthy suffer, the unhealthy suffer, the successful suffer, the unsuccessful suffer. The difference is that one form of suffering creates freedom and the other one creates pain and regret. And regret is one of the heaviest burdens a human being can carry, I promise you that. And at the end of your life, you will remember the mornings you slept, the mornings you pressed the snooze button, the excuses you bow down to during your training. You will remember the workouts you skipped, and you will not remember the opportunities you avoided because you were afraid. But one thing I promise you, you will remember who you could have become, and that is the biggest punishment. That version of you will haunt you until your last breath, not because life is unfair, nah, but because you abandoned him. You abandoned that perfect version of yourself. And this is why I tell you, this is why I tell you actually, and this is why I tell my students over here, stop waiting to feel ready. You will never feel ready, I promise you that. Stop waiting for confidence. Confidence comes after action. Stop waiting for certainty. Certainty is an illusion. Take a step. Send the message. Launch the project. Have the conversation. Walk into fear. Because life rewards action and movement, not perfection. Most people spend years and years of overthinking and preparing and overthinking and preparing. Very few spend years in becoming. The truth is very simple. The person you want to become is already waiting for you. But he exists or she exists on the other side of discomfort, on the other side of discipline, on the other side of responsibility, and on the other side of fear. The path is not hidden. The path is simple. Nah, you thought for 1 second that it's really simple. No. The path is simply absolutely difficult. And because it is difficult, most people will never walk it because they don't like discomfort. They're avoiding the pain. They're avoiding frustration. They don't have the patience. They don't have the consistency. But here is where your chance is. So if you stay when others leave, if you continue when others quit, if you choose growth over comfort long enough, something extraordinary begins to happen within you and around you. You will stop looking for motivation, you will stop looking for approval, and you stop looking for shortcuts. And for the first time in your life, you will become dangerous. And I'm not saying dangerous to anybody else, not dangerous to others, but dangerous to your own limitations, dangerous to your restrictions, dangerous to the demons within you, dangerous to the self-image you carry about yourself, that you're not enough, that you're broken, that you can't make it. Dangerous to all your excuses, and dangerous to every story that once convinced you that you were small. And that is the moment everything changes, because the greatest transformation in life is not becoming someone else. It is finally becoming who you were always capable of being, your true inner self. The question is not whether you can do it. The real question is, how much longer are you willing to stay where you are? So if not now, when then? Let me know in the comment section.